My name is Gina Pierce, and at 32, I've been the one holding my family together. As a tech specialist in Orlando, I've bankrolled their lives, rent car payments, even their endless streaming subscriptions. But last Sunday at a family dinner, thick with tension, everything shattered. My parents and brother demanded I foot the bill for his extravagant wedding, $50,000 no less. I refused, suggesting we all chip in. The room went ice cold. "You're banned from the wedding until you apologize." My mom snapped, her voice cutting like a blade. Dad nodded in agreement while my brother just smirked, as if I owed him my entire existence. Their expectations crushed me like I was supposed to sacrifice my life to meet their demands. But this time, I didn't argue. I didn't say a word. I just stood up, walked out, their glares burning into my back. When I got home, I made a move so bold, so unexpected, it turned their world upside down. By morning, my phone was on fire. 30 missed calls, texts flooding in, dripping with anger and guilt. They thought they could break me, force me to bend. But I was done being their ATM. What I did next changed everything, and they never saw it coming. Can you guess what I did? If your family ever turned on you for daring to set boundaries, what would you do? Drop your story in the comments. I'm reading every single one. My childhood in Orlando was a tapestry of warmth and shared dreams. Our small suburban house nestled under sprawling oaks hummed with love that felt eternal. Mom filled our Sundays with the scent of fresh pancakes, her laughter dancing over the clatter of plates as she teased Dad about his burnt toast. Dad, ever the storyteller, spun tales of mischievous squirrels or enchanted swamps, making Noah and me double over with giggles, juice glasses wobbling in our hands. Noah, my brother, 6 years younger, was my constant sidekick. We'd spend sticky summer days building forts from mismatched sheets, crowning ourselves knights of an imaginary kingdom. On cooler evenings, we'd race bikes through the neighborhood tires, whirring as I let him win just to see his triumphant grin. Those moments felt like they'd last forever, our laughter echoing down quiet streets. As the older sister, I cherished guiding Noah. When he stumbled over spelling words, I'd sit with him at our wobbly kitchen table, breaking down each letter until his face lit up with understanding. "You're the best, Gina," he'd chirp, his small hand squeezing mine. He'd return the favor, hauling my heavy library books or slipping me his favorite oatmeal cookies when I studied late. School was my refuge, where numbers made sense and possibilities stretched wide. I fell in love with math early, solving equations with a thrill that felt like magic. By middle school, I discovered coding on our clunky desktop, its fan buzzing as I pored over free online tutorials. Python became my language, each line a step toward a future I could shape. Noah would hover nearby, watching me troubleshoot, whispering, "You're gonna build something amazing, Gina." His faith pushed me to dream bigger, to believe I could be more. Mom and Dad poured their hearts into us despite their struggles. Mom's retail job left her weary, but she'd still braid my hair before school, humming softly. Dad juggled odd jobs, mowing lawns, fixing cars, but always made time to cheer at my math fairs, his claps ringing loudest when I won a certificate. They never missed Noah's soccer practices, shouting from the sidelines even after long shifts. Our home, with its chipped paint and creaky floors, was a sanctuary. We'd pile onto the couch for movie marathons, bickering over whether to watch Noah's cartoons or Mom's sappy dramas, Dad sneaking us extra popcorn when Mom dozed off. On balmy nights, we'd sprawl on the porch, fireflies flickering as Mom shared stories of her youth, her voice wrapping us in nostalgia. Noah would curl up beside me, his head on my shoulder, and I'd feel like nothing could break us. But as we grew, I started noticing cracks. Mom and Dad began giving Noah extra attention, new sneakers for him while my shoes wore thin, or praising his small wins while my straight-A report cards got a quick nod. When I spent hours coding, Mom would say, "Don't strain yourself, Gina," but she'd beam when Noah scored a goal, even if his team lost. Dad started letting Noah off chores, saying, "He's young, let him play while I scrubbed dishes or folded laundry." Noah, once my shadow, began pulling away. He'd skip our bike races to hang with friends, and when I helped with his homework, he'd roll his eyes, muttering, "I've got it, Gina." I brushed it off, thinking it was just him growing up, but it stung. One day, I overheard Mom telling Dad Noah needs us more. Gina's always fine. The words landed like a weight, planting a seed of doubt. Was I less important because I worked harder? The favoritism grew subtle but sharp. Noah got a new backpack for school. I mended mine with tape. When I won a coding contest, Dad said nice job but spent dinner raving about Noah's new skateboard trick. I still loved Noah, but our closeness frayed. He'd ditch our fort building to play video games, and I'd study alone, the house quieter without our shared laughter. I told myself it was normal siblings drift, parents have favorites, but it felt like a betrayal of our old bond. I kept pushing forward, diving deeper into coding, determined to prove my worth. Mom and Dad's struggles, bills piling up, Dad's side hustles failing, loomed larger, but I didn't see how they'd shape our future. Back then, I clung to the memories of our united family, believing love would hold us together. In my early 20s, my role in the family began to change. After graduating college with a degree in computer science, I landed a tech job in Orlando, my salary dwarfing anything Mom or Dad had ever earned. At first, it felt like a triumph, a chance to give back to the family that had cheered me on. But it started with a single phone call from Mom, her voice heavy with worry. "Gina, the electric bill's overdue. Can you help just this once?" she asked. I sent $400 without hesitation, relieved to ease her stress. Then Noah, fresh from dropping out of college, needed a place to live. "I'm figuring out my path," he said, so I covered his rent, $2,000 a month for a downtown apartment. When Dad's old sedan broke down, I paid for the repairs, thinking it was my duty to keep them steady. The requests didn't stop. Mom called again, asking to add streaming services to my credit card: Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, the full lineup. I agreed, assuming it was a small thing to make her happy. Dad started mentioning other bills: car insurance, phone plans, even a new water heater, each time with a hint of expectation. Noah's texts were blunt: "Need cash for groceries by Friday?" Or, "Can you spot me for gas?" I'd send the money only to see him post photos in designer sneakers or at pricey bars. The gratitude I'd expected faded fast. Each call or text carried a new demand, and their assumption that I'd always say yes began to weigh on me. My savings, once a growing nest egg, started to shrink. Dreams I'd held close, buying a home, traveling to Europe, felt like distant stars slipping further away with every check I wrote. I pushed myself harder at work, taking late-night shifts to cover the growing costs. My tech job was demanding, but I thrived on the challenge, coding complex systems and solving problems. Yet the pride I felt was overshadowed by the pressure at home. I'd come home exhausted, my phone buzzing with another request from Noah for concert tickets, or from Dad for a quick loan to fix something else. Mom's calls were the hardest. She'd start with small talk, then slide into asking for a spa day or a new appliance, saying she deserved a break. I wanted to say no, to explain how much I was sacrificing, but the words stuck in my throat. They were family, and I'd been taught family came first. One night, I met my friend M for coffee at a quiet Orlando cafe, my hands trembling as I gripped my mug. "They're draining me," I confessed, my voice low. "Every call is another ask, and they don't even care what it costs me." M leaned forward, her gaze steady. "Gina, you're not their bank. They're taking advantage of you." Her words stung like a truth I wasn't ready to face. I'd always seen myself as the strong one, the daughter who could fix anything, but now I felt like I was drowning my life, shrinking to fit their needs. I tried setting boundaries once during a call with Mom. "Can we split some of these bills?" I asked, keeping my tone gentle. She laughed it off. "You're doing so well, Gina. Why make a fuss?" Dad overheard and chimed in. "Family helps family. Don't be selfish." Noah didn't even engage, he just sent another text asking for money for a new phone. Their dismissals cut deep. I kept hoping they'd see how much I was giving up, that they'd step up and take responsibility. But the demands only grew. Mom wanted a weekend getaway, claiming it was for her health. Dad hinted at needing a laptop for a new business idea, another vague plan I knew wouldn't pan out. Noah asked for a gym membership, then car repairs, then more cash for essentials that somehow included club nights. I started tracking it, not just the money, but the pieces of myself I was losing. My evenings were spent calculating budgets instead of relaxing. My dreams of a house, a trip, a life of my own were buried under their expectations. I was funding their comfort while my own life stalled and the weight was crushing. When did family become a one-way street? Have you ever felt trapped by someone else's demands? Share your story in the comments. I'm reading everyone. It all came to a head one Sunday dinner. We were at my parents' house, the air thick with tension. My brother dropped the bombshell as we passed the mashed potatoes. "I'm getting married," he announced, his voice smug. "It's going to be big, $50,000, top-tier venue, open bar, the works." He looked straight at me, expectant, like I'd already signed the check. My stomach twisted. I'd been funding their lives for years, rent cars, vacations, but this was a new level of audacity. I took a deep breath. "That sounds amazing, Noah," I said, keeping my tone even. "But that's a lot of money. Maybe we could all pitch in." The table went silent. Mom's fork froze mid-air. Dad's eyes narrowed. My brother leaned back, crossing his arms. "Pitch in," he scoffed. "You're the one with the fancy tech job, Gina. You're supposed to handle this." I pushed back, my voice steady but firm. "I've been handling everything for years. It's time everyone contributes." Mom slammed her glass down, her face red. "You're being selfish," she snapped. "This is your brother's big day. You want to ruin it." Dad leaned forward, his voice low and cutting. "If you can't support family, you don't belong at the wedding. Apologize, or you're out." The words hit like a slap. My brother smirked like he'd won some game. I looked at them, Mom's glare, Dad's clenched jaw, Noah's smug grin, and felt something break. They weren't asking for help. They were demanding my life. I'd poured everything into them, and now they were shutting me out for daring to say no. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stood up, my chair scraping the floor. "I'm not apologizing," I said, my voice cold. "You don't get to dictate my life." Mom gasped, muttering about disrespect. Dad pointed at the door, his voice booming. "Then you're not welcome here." Noah just shrugged, like I was the one being unreasonable. I walked out, my heart pounding. In my car, I gripped the steering wheel, their words echoing, "Selfish, ungrateful, not family." I'd spent years keeping them afloat, sacrificing my own dreams, and this was how they repaid me. I thought of every late night at work, every missed opportunity, every dollar I'd sent their way. They didn't see me as a daughter or a sister. They saw me as a resource, and I'd let them. I drove home, my mind racing. I wasn't just hurt, I was angry. Angry at them for taking me for granted, angry at myself for letting it go this far. I'd always thought family meant sacrifice. But this wasn't sacrifice. It was exploitation. I couldn't keep living like this, bleeding myself dry to keep them comfortable. Sitting in my apartment, I stared at my phone. No calls, no texts, not yet. But I knew they'd come, demanding I back down, expecting me to cave. For the first time, I didn't want to. I didn't want to smooth things over or write another check to fix it. I wanted to take control. I thought about calling my friend, but I didn't need her to tell me what I already knew. This wasn't just about a wedding. It was about years of being used. I opened my laptop, pulled up my bank account, and stared at the numbers. Every payment I'd made for them flashed through my mind. I wasn't going to let them guilt me anymore. I was done being their safety net. That night, I made a choice. I wasn't going to beg to be part of their lives. I wasn't going to apologize for standing up for myself. I was going to do something they'd never expect, something that would change everything. And I wasn't looking back. The next morning, I made a decision. My family's words at dinner, calling me selfish, banning me from the wedding, burned in my mind. But they also sparked something new. I was done being their ATM. I needed a plan, and it had to be solid. On that morning, I called Vincent, my friend since college, who always had a knack for numbers. We met at a coffee shop in Orlando, the hum of conversation around us. "I've been paying for their rent bills, even their vacations," I said, my voice tight but steady. "They expect it, and I'm drowning." Vincent leaned forward, his eyes sharp but kind. "Gina, you're not their bank," he said. "You need to cut the financial cord starting now." He outlined steps: stop automatic payments, freeze shared accounts, and send a clear message. I also reached out to a lawyer friend for advice. She warned that family could react unpredictably when money stops flowing. "Document everything," she said. "Make your boundaries clear, no room for misinterpretation." Her words felt like a shield, giving me confidence to move forward. Back at my apartment, I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. My hands trembled as I canceled the automatic payments for my brother's rent and my parents' utility bills. I accessed the credit card portal and froze the cards I'd given them for emergencies, cards they'd used for streaming subscriptions and shopping sprees. Each click lifted a weight, but my chest tightened with every step. What if they begged? What if they turned on me? I drafted an email, keeping it concise and firm. "After years of supporting you, I can no longer cover your expenses," I wrote. "All payments and cards will stop in 1 month. Please make other arrangements." I addressed it to Mom, Dad, and my brother, my fingers pausing over the send button. I reread it, ensuring it was direct, but not harsh. Then I clicked send. My phone stayed quiet, but I knew a storm was brewing. That evening, I met Vincent again at the same coffee shop. "I did it," I said, stirring my drink. "I cut them off." He nodded, a small smile breaking through. "That took guts, Gina. How do you feel?" I searched for the right word. "Relieved," I said finally, "but scared. What if they can't cope?" Vincent shook his head. "They're adults. They'll figure it out or they won't. That's not your burden." His words grounded me, but doubt lingered. I'd spent years tying my worth to their comfort. Cutting that tie felt like freedom, but also like betraying everything I'd been taught about family. I kept picturing Mom's face when she read the email, Dad's anger, my brother's indifference. Would they call me ungrateful again? Would they show up at my door, back home? I double-checked my accounts, ensuring everything was locked down. Vincent had suggested a budget to rebuild my savings, and I started mapping it out. For the first time in years, I thought about my own dreams, a home of my own, maybe a trip somewhere new. It felt selfish, but also right. I wasn't abandoning them. I was choosing myself. Still, the fear gnawed at me. I'd been their safety net for so long. What would happen when it was gone? I pushed the thought aside, remembering the lawyer's advice: document everything. I saved a copy of the email, took screenshots of the canceled payments, and noted every action I'd taken. It felt methodical, like preparing for a battle, but it gave me clarity. I lay awake that night, my phone still silent. No texts, no calls, not yet. But I knew they'd see the email soon. I braced myself for their reaction, knowing it wouldn't be gentle. I'd crossed a line they never expected, and there was no turning back. The following day, my phone lit up. 30 missed calls. Mom, Dad, my brother, each one pulsing with rage. Their voicemails were a barrage of accusations. "How dare you cut us off? You're tearing this family apart." Texts poured in, sharp and demanding. "Fix this, Gina," my brother wrote. "You owe us." I didn't respond. I knew they'd come for me, and I was prepared. That evening, a knock rattled my apartment door. I opened it to find Mom, Dad, and my brother standing there, faces twisted with anger. Mom stormed in first, her voice piercing. "What's wrong with you?" she snapped. "You think you can just pull the plug and ruin our lives?" Dad crossed his arms, his stare icy. "This is betrayal, Gina. We raised you better." My brother leaned against the wall, smirking. "You're really gonna let me lose my place over this?" I stood firm, my heart pounding but my voice steady. "I've paid for your rent, your bills, Your lifestyle for years, I said. I'm done. You need to figure it out. Mom's jaw dropped like I'd struck her. You ungrateful child, she hissed. After everything we've done, you abandon us. Dad stepped closer, pointing. You're no daughter of mine if you keep this up. Before I could reply, my phone buzzed. It was Vincent calling from his office. I put him on speaker, hoping for a break from the tension. His voice was heavy. Gina. I dug into some things, he said. Your parents took the money you gave them, years of it, and sank it into a real estate deal. It crashed. They lost everything. The room went still. Mom's face drained of color. Dad looked away, his jaw tight. My brother shifted, his smirk gone. I stared at them, my chest tightening. Is this true? I asked, my voice low. Mom stammered. We thought it would work out. Dad muttered. It was a sure thing. My brother stayed silent, eyes on the floor. All those years I thought I was keeping them afloat, covering necessities, helping them survive. But they'd been gambling with my money, chasing dreams they never shared with me. I felt sick, betrayed in a way I hadn't anticipated. You used me, I said, my voice shaking but firm. You took everything I gave and threw it away. Mom tried to cut in, her voice desperate. We didn't mean to hurt you, Gina. We just needed a win. Dad spoke softer now. We were going to pay you back. I shook my head, stopping them. You lied. You hid it because you knew I'd say no. My brother finally spoke, defensive. It's not like you were broke. You could have kept helping. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. This ends now, I said. I'm not your bank, and I'm not your safety net. You need to leave. Mom's eyes widened, tears forming. You're kicking us out, she whispered. Dad grabbed her arm, his voice hard again. Let's go. She's made her choice. My brother shot me a glare, muttering, You'll regret this. They walked out the door, slamming behind them. I sank onto my couch, my hands trembling. Vincent's call had ripped open their lies, but it didn't erase the pain. I'd given them everything, my time, my money, my future, and they'd used it without a thought. But standing up to them, saying those words, felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. I stared at my phone, the missed calls still glowing on the screen. I didn't call Vincent back. I didn't need to. The truth was out, and for the first time I saw my family for who they were. I wasn't sure what would happen next, but I knew I couldn't go back to being their lifeline. A week later, I heard updates through my friend. Vincent, still uneasy after revealing my family's failed investment, called me one afternoon. They had to sell the house, he said, his voice low. Couldn't keep up with the payments. The suburban Orlando home I'd grown up in, the one I'd helped sustain for years, was gone. My brother was working long shifts at a local coffee shop, barely making ends meet. Mom had taken a job as a retail clerk, ringing up purchases at a department store. Dad was scouring job boards, applying for office roles with no luck so far. None of them reached out to me, not to apologize, not to explain their choices. Instead, they took to social media. Mom posted a scathing Facebook rant, calling me selfish for abandoning them. After everything we did for Gina, she left us to sink. She wrote her words, dripping with resentment. Dad chimed in on Twitter, his post blunt. Some kids forget what family means. Their accusations spread quickly. Aunt Diane Ward, Mom's sister, amplified the posts, adding her own spin. Gina turned her back on blood. Neighbors and old acquaintances piled on their comments, flooding my notifications. How could you do this? Gina, one wrote. You're heartless, another declared. I sat at my desk, scrolling through the posts, my chest tight. I'd braced for backlash, but seeing my name smeared publicly stung more than I expected. They didn't mention their secret real estate gamble or the years I'd poured money into their lives. They crafted a narrative where I was the ungrateful daughter who walked away for no reason. The community bought it, and the pressure mounted. A coworker brought up the posts at lunch, her tone hesitant but probing. A neighbor slipped a note under my door suggesting I fix things with my family. I wanted to clap back to expose their lies, but Vincent's advice echoed, document, don't engage. I saved screenshots of every post, every comment, building a record in case I needed it. I wasn't going to sink to their level trading barbs online. Still, the weight of their words pressed down. I'd spent years tying my worth to their approval, and now they were shredding it in front of everyone. Vincent called again a week later, his voice tense. "They're still at it," he said. "Your mom's telling anyone who'll listen that you ruined them." I thanked him, my voice steady despite my shaking hands. I couldn't believe they'd rather vilify me than own their mistakes. They'd lost their home, their stability, but instead of facing their choices, they pointed fingers at me. I focused on my own life, keeping my distance. My savings were growing again, and I was browsing condos in Orlando, a dream I'd shelved for years. But the social media storm lingered like a shadow. Every ping on my phone made me flinch, expecting another attack. I muted Mom, Dad, and my brother's accounts, but Aunt Diane's posts kept surfacing, shared by mutual contacts. "Family comes first," she wrote, tagging me directly. "Shame on you, Gina." The community's judgment was relentless. A high school friend messaged asking why I'd betrayed my family. A local church group where Mom volunteered emailed about mending family bonds. My name was now gossip fodder in the town I'd called home forever. It felt like a siege, every accusation chipping away at my resolve. I leaned on Vincent and my close circle for support. They didn't need me to explain, they knew the truth. Still, guilt crept in during quiet moments. Had I been too harsh? Should I have eased them into it? But then I'd recall their endless demands, their hidden investment, the way they turned on me without hesitation. They weren't sorry, they were lashing out. I chose silence, letting their posts fade on their own. I wouldn't fight them online or beg for the community's approval. I'd made my stand, and I was learning to live with it even if it meant standing alone. 2 months later, I was living a life I never imagined. My money was finally mine. I signed the papers for a cozy condo in Orlando, a place I could call home. The mortgage payments felt like a vow to myself, a step toward a future I'd shelved for years. I opened a savings account, watching the balance climb, each dollar a piece of security I hadn't felt in ages. It wasn't just numbers, it was freedom. I took my first real vacation, a solo trip to New York City. Walking through Central Park, I felt light, the burden of my family's demands gone. Later, I flew to California, driving along the Pacific coast, the ocean breeze carrying a truth I could forge my own path. These weren't just trips, they were proof I could live for myself, not for their expectations. I severed all contact with Mom, Dad, and my brother. I blocked their numbers, unfollowed their accounts, and ignored stray messages from mutual contacts. It wasn't easy, each silence stung with loss, but it was necessary. They'd shown me who they were, and I wasn't returning to being their lifeline. Standing firm took strength, but every moment away from their grip made me stronger. Not everyone turned away. Uncle Gregory Riley, Dad's brother, called one evening. "You did right, Gina," he said, his voice warm and firm. "Standing up to them took courage." Grandma Clara Pierce, Mom's mother, sent a letter, her handwriting shaky but her words steady. "I'm proud you chose yourself," she wrote. Their support anchored me, a reminder that family could mean more than demands and letdowns. I drew on my own resilience to push forward. For years, I'd believed family meant giving everything, even at my own expense, but breaking free showed me my worth wasn't tied to what I gave them. Setting boundaries gave me space to rebuild, not as their provider, but as myself. I wasn't escaping my past, I was shaping my future. My job at the tech firm became more than a paycheck, it was a source of pride. I tackled new projects I'd once avoided, energized by the freedom to focus on my own goals. I joined a local hiking group, finding joy in weekends on Florida's trails. Each step felt like a claim, this life was mine. My savings grew, and I started dreaming of new trips, maybe Europe next. The possibilities stretched wide, unlike the years I'd spent chained to their needs. Looking back, I saw how much I'd sacrificed to keep my family afloat. Their demands, lies, and betrayal nearly broke me. But standing my ground brought a peace I didn't know I could have. I wasn't the villain they'd painted, and I didn't need their approval to know my worth. My strength carried me through building a life that was mine, not theirs. To anyone watching, my story holds a truth. Family isn't about draining yourself dry, it's about mutual respect. If you're caught in a cycle of demands, feeling you owe more than you can give, you're allowed to say no. You're allowed to choose yourself. It's hard, and it might hurt, but your value isn't what others take from you. Put yourself first, and the rest will follow. What do you think? Have you ever set a boundary like this? Share your story in the comment.